Welcome back to the Guru's YouTube channel. X and Theo. Mike is off doing his own thing. Theo barely got here, but he's able to do this Guru's Knockout Round preview podcast where we're just going to talk about everything we've seen from this World Cup so far from the group stage and then preview the knockout rounds. Some teams we like, some teams we don't necessarily like, and then give our prediction for the semis and eventual champion. Before we begin, Theo, how are we doing on this Sunday?
Feeling good. Hit the links. Nice day out in Chicago. Probably last time we're getting before temperatures get up to 90, 95 degrees. But good to stay inside with AC because we'll have knockout round World Cup football on all week. So ready to roll.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. We'll be in vacation in Albuquerque in a few weeks where the way too advanced forecast looking at triple digits. So I'm trying to soak up the nice part of summer now before it just gets so ridiculously hot and your shirt sticking to you and all that stuff. Not really ready for that. But I am ready to talk about the general observations so far from watching this World Cup. We are Americans. We're going to call this soccer because that's what we call it here. And by the way, it's a British word of root. So I'm so sick of hearing that talking point. But beyond that, I feel like everything about this World Cup has been fairly positive from an American standpoint. It seems like everything we've seen on socials is people from across the world coming to America and enjoying the most random things between Texas barbecue, between Wawa, between just like going to a Mets game. Norway was just doing dances in the outfield, just unbelievable scenes around the country. You're in Chicago, so you're in the thick of it here in middle America. I want to hear your thoughts on just what you've seen, what you've heard, all of that fun stuff surrounding this World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I think, a massive success. I think people were worried about it, but I think we're kind of just like the perfect place to host a World Cup. I think getting Mexico and Canada involved too, it adds more cultures. But like recent World Cups, like Qatar and Brazil, like they've had to build stadiums to host these events, spent like tens of billions of dollars, and then like it ends and there's nothing to do with these stadiums. We have all the infrastructure already here, baby. And it seems like our stadiums are, people are liking them. I mean, I'm shocked the European people came in and said good stuff about MetLife. So they're clearly easily impressed. I see them, they're calling NRG Stadium in Houston like one of the modern wonders of the world, which I feel like that's a regular stadium to us. But it's been awesome. And then just for all the cities that are hosting, I mean, my city kind of screwed up, but I have seen some travelers, stopping in Chicago as they go to other places. But for all these cities to just like be able to spend an afternoon and just immerse yourself with these fans, where you can just like hang out with the Curacao fans, or if you're in Boston, you can hang out with the Scotland fans or march with the Netherlands fans. Like, I love everything about the World Cup. I've really only gotten into like domestic league soccer the last couple of years, but like the World Cup has always captivated me since 2010, especially like it's in America. So I know all the stadiums, so I care about that. And then just also to just have the games on at times when I'm already awake is massive as well.
100%, because I feel like last World Cup, it's such a dark cloud over it. First of all, it's just difficult to watch for us here in America. Secondly, the human rights violations and the way they got the World Cup in Qatar, all of that just felt a bit icky. Now we don't really remember that because Messi won it, and that's kind of what the prevailing notion will be from 22. But this just has a different vibe to it. And yes, part of that is the expansion, which we'll talk about in a little while, where there's just more teams involved. So you're just seeing more cultures and whatnot. But it is cool just to see pockets of America be embraced the way they are as well. As you mentioned, I unfortunately missed the Scottish takeover here in Boston. I was on the West Coast for that. But even something as I was going to Alcatraz one day when I was in the Bay, and it was the night after Austria and I believe Jordan played in Santa Clara. So there was just an immense presence of Austrian fans on the boat to Alcatraz, which is a sentence I don't think I've ever thought I would be able to utter in my entire life. And they were incredibly friendly. They were all in their gear. It felt like that was a requirement. Like you had to show up in your Austrian kit. or you had to show up in like a black shirt that said AUS on it so everyone knew where you were from. And just everyone was speaking Austro German. And if they were talking to you, they knew English. So it just felt like you were literally in Vienna or something. It was genuinely unbelievable to experience. And that was just a little anecdote that I had. Not to mention, again, I missed the Scottish takeover. There was some other stuff going on as well. We mentioned Norway. I saw there was a humongous Brazilian scene in New York that was like going viral online as well. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Cape Verde, I'm from an area where Cape Verde has basically all of their roots in the US. The only international direct flight to Cape Verde is for Providence. So having them in the local area celebrate their advancement as well has just been incredibly special. So I completely agree with everything you've said there, where it just feels really like a World Cup, which I don't think we've had in a while. It's been since 2018, and yes, that's only 2 renditions, but that's still 8 years. That's nearly a decade. Just getting this energy back in this event, I think, is so paramount because let's face it, America gets a bad rap for a lot of things, but one of the bigger sporting things they get a bad rap for is how they treat soccer and how it's never necessarily been able to grow in this country. How Pele came over and some other European greats in the late 70s, and they weren't even able to capitalize on that. And for years, there's an afterthought. The woman figured it out. They've won numerous World Cups to this point. And the men have just been lackluster, to say the least. They've never really been able to field a team that is even able to inspire, like, okay, this team can make a run. They did it in 2002 in Korea/Japan. The Donovan Dempsey teams never really were as good as you wanted them to be as a tandem. They miss in 18. 22, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with that team. But now in 26, like, the US team being as good as they've been so far in their games, as you mentioned, leading up to the event off air, and now in the tournament, like that is helped as well. When you have a host nation actually playing well, Canada just advanced today to the round of 16. Mexico swept their group. When you have that added to it as well, the local fans are like adding that extra boost. I feel like everything has been so encapsulated into making this magical moment. There's so much more to go. We're still the beginning of this thing. But as of right now, I feel like we're in store for truly a historic next few weeks.
Yeah, and I think one of the big concerns too was like the ticket prices. Like, are the buildings even going to be full? And then like we had DR Congo versus Uzbekistan in Atlanta last night. Like the atmosphere was sick. Like I think like every game has brought like some type of atmosphere, which has been awesome. Like, so I think that was like the biggest concern.
100%. And I know I was someone who was incredibly bitter. I kept putting in for all the draws that they had, FIFA online. I couldn't get anything. I was trying to go on the secondary market. The prices were just exorbitant if you wanted to see any like resemblance of a star. But it seems like when you have so many countries involved, someone's going to pay the ticket price. Eventually, someone's going to say, okay, here's my $400, and we're going to watch Netherlands, Morocco here, and we're going to be happy about it. So I'm excited to see what this next round is going to look like because the group stage was a lot of fun, man. I had a great time with the rule changes, the 5-second throw ins, this stolen identity where if you're flopping a little bit too hard, we're going to check it out and we can rescind yellow cards and apply them to the player that flopped. The expanded format again with more teams just in the field. What did you make of the group stage, these new rule changes, and anything else you might have noticed?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I feel like almost every game was like compelling in some way. There was like very few that I like that I felt like there was nothing to watch because even a lot of like the nil draws they were like big upsets. Like it was like Ecuador, Curacao, or Spain, Cape Verde. So they were still compelling the entire way through. I know the Europeans are hating on the hydration breaks. I don't know. I'm kind of fine with it. I feel like we're used to it in American sports. where we watch, 8 minutes of sports and then it's commercial. So I actually always have found that troubling. It's just like going out to bars during Premier League games and you're having a couple pints and you're getting about to get a 50-minute second half without getting to go to the bathroom. You might miss some action. So it's definitely the Europeans hate it, not part of their culture. I'm pro hydration break. Gives you time, go get a beer or whatever, breaks up the match a little. I like that. The U.S. kind of leaning into it, saying like we're playing 4 quarters now. Yeah, some of the throw-ins and stuff. I think they've done some stuff to just keep the game flowing. Yeah, keep people off the ground as much as possible. I mean, that's one of the common soccer critiques. So I think all the games have had flow, and they've almost all been compelling.
Yeah, you said a lot there. I do feel like this tournament, for the most part, has been called pretty lax. I feel like I haven't seen the data in front of me, but I do feel like there's less whistles. The ball is definitely in play more often, and that was a big point of contention, hence the 5 second throw ins. And even that, like, I feel like that's been a noticeable difference as well. To me, before, like, yeah, you see stalling a lot towards the end of games. I never realized how big of a deal that was necessarily until you see it implemented before you and you're like, wow, that does save a lot of time and the ball is in play more often. For the hydration breaks, like, yeah, we know what it is. It's just another point to have a commercial and more advertising. I get all that. I kind of agree with you. This is going to get a lot of hate. That's fine. I do like to go to the bathroom. I do like to get a snack. I do like to refill my drink. So getting that quick little break, I think, is valuable for us as the consumer. But on the field, I thought it's actually paid dividends as well from an entertainment standpoint, because I feel like we've seen a lot of tactical changes develop from these hydration breaks. We've seen it a lot where X team comes in and they're playing one style, hydration break comes, and then Team Z all of a sudden is trying to play a totally different way now that they have the benefit of stopping, reevaluating. Is that a little bit cheesy and not like a traditionalist standpoint? Yes, I understand that. But I do think it's helping the actual quality on the field because these players are rested. They're getting to kind of explore more tactically, and you're seeing the results play out in front of you. Now, granted, every single favorite won their group except Portugal, but it's not March Madness. This is the World Cup. That's expected, especially in an expanded format. I think now, in the round of 32 and beyond, will we get some upsets? We're going to talk about that in a bit as well. But I do think what's happened so far has been an ode of quality play. Like, there hasn't been too many matches where I'm like, you know what? This is total garbage. And to say there's teams like, no offense to them, like New Zealand and Qatar and Saudi Arabia in the field who, like, let's face it, just aren't very good, that's a really good thing to me.
100%.
Yeah, like I wanna give FIFA credit here because everything is a money grab. Like, they are so money hungry, it's not even funny, and they're not fooling anyone. But it hasn't compromised the product, and I think for that, I have to give them a smidgen of credit because this World Cup, once it's said and done, could be amongst the pillars of, like, this is one of the all-time sporting events.
Yeah, because I don't think the expansion, I don't think it took away from qualifying too much, like the European qualifying. There were still like some great games. There were still teams left out, like Denmark's not here, Italy's not here. Like Ireland had a good run, so I think you still got something out of qualifying, and I don't think like quality was compromised too much. And I'm like kind of for like inclusiveness here, like Curaçao's here, they're not very good, but I kind of appreciate the moment when they score an equalizer against Germany, and like for 12 minutes they feel like something's gonna happen, and then you lose 7-1. But I feel like that's a moment they should get to experience. Like that's kind of like the March Madness feel you get when there's a 16 seed and they make a bunch of threes and they're up at the under 8 media timeout and then they get crushed. But it's like you always remember that moment. So I'm always for giving. Like I think sports like brings out such happiness. So if you can give that to more people, I think that's always a good thing.
And here's the other thing, like, who are we to say who the terrible teams are? Because Cape Verde would have been lumped with Curacao pre-tournament. In the old format, Cape Verde would have still advanced. They were a second place finisher. They would have finished over Uruguay. So, like, who are we to say, like, this team on paper isn't good enough when you have teams like, I mean, Ivory Coast topping Ecuador in their group, which obviously they were a darling as far as like a dark horse, but even so, like South Africa finishing second, would have advanced in the old format over South Korea, over Czechia. Like, these are incredible results that, regardless of the expansion, still would have occurred. Like, that to me is a sign of a balanced tournament where, like, there is some filler, like Tunisia. Like, we didn't need to see them. We didn't really need to see Haiti. But at the end of the day, like, I still feel like these are the teams, for the most part, that belong here.
Yeah, I mean, and those teams that like the teams that like Haiti had like that story is so special. Like they weren't even able to like practice or like do anything in their own country because of what's going on there. So just like a moment like that, like even them coming and like losing 3 games that meant a lot to a lot of people. So I'm like, we knew what was going to happen with them, but I still think that's something that brought joy to a large community of people.
100%. And I think we've done enough gaga here. Let's get to the actual soccer. Let's preview the knockout round. We're going to start with the U.S. Top their group, lost that last game to Turkey at the death, but still 6 points, thoroughly handed Paraguay and Australia. Now they're moving on to Bosnia. It's going to be a tough matchup. Their side of the bracket, I think, is a little bit wide open. So if they can get through here, there is a potential path to make a deep run in this tournament. Are you worried about their initial game against Bosnia?
Yeah, I mean it's knockout round football, so anything can happen. I mean, we saw Bosnia, with the help of a red card, but they did knock a very good Italy team out in a situation like this. I think they're good at defending, and they have some quality. They have some guys who are capable of individual brilliance. So I expect the U.S. to win. But yeah, it's anything can happen in this tournament. Definitely not just sharpening us into the round of 16.
100%. I do think what bodes well for the U.S., they get to stay in the West Coast. They have the advantage of 99 to 1 probably fans in that stadium on their side, and they're the much more talented team. Anything can happen. I'm not too worried though. Like, I saw every single one of their group games. They played Canada kind of well, who I don't really rate that much. And then beyond that, I didn't really see much from them. Like, I just didn't see anything there on the attack that really scared me, to be honest. And I think that's going to be the key for this US team. Like, are they going to face an offense that can score at will? And I don't think Bosnia is that, because this United States back line is a little bit shaky for my liking, potentially, especially in the middle, where Tim Ream is still starting games. Before the tournament, it seemed like Poch said, like, he's going to be the captain, and that doesn't mean he's going to play every single game. But he's played every single game that matters so far for the U.S. So I don't know how that's going to work against the Spains and Portugals, which we'll get to in a second. But against Bosnia, like, I think all of the U.S.'s strengths bode well in that game. The attack's going to be on fire. Bosnia's defense isn't anything like crazy, in my opinion. They finished the group stage with a -1. They played Switzerland, Canada, and Qatar. Like, that's just not exactly a murderer's row of talent. So I think the U.S. should be heavily favored in that game. I'm worried always about, like, are they going to take their opponent too lightly? Is this, like, being hyped up too much in the national media now that they won their first 2 games, that the vibes are still high even after the Turkey A defeat, and they kind of lose sight of things? But I'm not seeing a world where Bosnia knocks them out here before they reach the round of 16, and I think we're both on the same page. But I think the bigger question is, can they compete with who else is in their side of the bracket, which is Belgium, and then perhaps a Spain and Portugal, if they can get that far. Belgium was playing probably their worst football of this, like, post golden generation era. Then they put up 5 in their last game. The vibes are high. Lukaku's saying all the right things. KDB scored. They're saying all the right things about him, despite all the rumors about, like, tension with him and the Belgium team. Spain and Portugal both, like, were kind of disastrous in the group stage. Spain is kind of escaping some criticism when in reality their win against Uruguay was on a ball that is saved 99% of the times that the Uruguayan keeper, like, went through his hands, to the point where They're flying domestic on their way back home. They canceled their flight. They have to find their own way back home. That's how bad their performance was against Spain. And Spain still only scored on that one goal. So, like, the teams in front of them haven't been playing great ball. The U.S. has. Are we overrating what we just saw on the group stage? And can the U.S. actually play with these quote unquote big boys over in Europe?
Yeah, so my take is this. This is the best I've ever seen a U.S. team play. And honestly, it kind of came out of nowhere to me. Like, I think leading up to the tournament, like a couple of our top guys didn't have great seasons domestically, especially like Pulisic had a down year. And then we had the rumors that Poch might be going to AC Milan right before the tournament. But then I watched like the way we played Senegal in that first international friendly, and we were just buzzing. Felt like we were creating goal opportunities every 5 minutes. And then I saw us play Germany very, very well. Had a chance to draw and had chances to even do more than that in that game. So from there, I was like, I actually think the U.S. is going to win the group. And then, yeah, we played great the first two games of the group. We're able to win the group. But I think my stance since the first game of the group stage, I think the ceiling for this team is like a heartbreaking quarterfinals loss. I think that's probably their peak, but I think that'd be a good thing for U.S. soccer to win two of these knockout round games and then push a giant to the brink in the quarterfinals, like a Portugal, like a Spain, just push them to the brink, experience some type of, heartbreaking loss where you were almost there, but that's something that like really ignites the flame for US soccer and like shows everyone like we are this close with one of the best teams in the world.
They introduced this pentagon with the five attackers in the middle of the field against Paraguay in the opening game. And I feel like that's changed everything for this team because you're seeing a lot in this tournament. Teams playing possession heavy football, trying to work the wings, cross in the middle, and just use their talent to their advantage. And the U.S. has talent, obviously, but it's not like they're dripping with guys at these top clubs across Europe. So they have to get a little bit more creative. And I feel like that creativity has really helped them because you're seeing the individual brilliance of guys like Pulisic, guys like Dest, guys like McKennie. They're all playing so free. Like Serginho Dest looks like he's playing like street football out there. And he's in a new position. He's basically playing right wing right now for the US. And I feel like that has really changed everything because two things have been kind of prominent with the US for the last, let's call it 6 years in the Pulisic era. They haven't had a striker, and that right wing has kind of been this constant rotation where we're just kind of begging for someone to step up there. And now we have Malik Tillman as the central attacking midfielder. That was supposed to be Yunus Musa, who's not even on the squad anymore, and he's kind of been an afterthought in U.S. soccer. So we have Tillman taking up that role. Then in the middle at actual striker, we have Flo Balogun, who has been absolutely brilliant since putting on a USA kit. And then in the right wing, we've had guys like Tim Weah try to play there, Brendan Aronson, Josh Sargent sometimes they used to throw out on the right, Gio Reyna, who isn't necessarily great on the wing, in my opinion. I feel like he's a little bit better playing like either a false 10 or, just somewhere along the midfield. Dest playing on that side with his pace and his creativity has just changed the look of this team because he's so aggressive. But I feel like that aggressiveness was sorely needed because we saw what happened when Tim Weah was inserted in the equation. He had no idea what to do with the ball. And yeah, it wasn't his traditional side. His performance was embarrassing. And that's kind of been indicative of a lot of his run with this team as well. So the fact that now we have consistency at the three most attacking positions, you have McKennie behind as well as Tillman. Adams is playing that CDM role brilliantly. All of a sudden, that like shaky defense you weren't super sure about outside of Jedi, they're looking really solid right now. Now, Theo, I do want to hear your thoughts on if you have any concerns about this team in those bigger matches, because we're going to talk a lot about these two center backs, Chris Richards, who is one of the apples of the eyes of top European clubs right now, and then Tim Ream, who is an old man who plays for Charlotte and isn't very great right now at his club or domestically, but has kind of been putting the cape on his back here so far in these games and is playing out of his mind. We have Freeman over to the right, but is there anything that concerns you beyond the obvious, which is this back line hasn't been playing together very long. Reeves in there manning the middle. How is he going to look against better competition? Anything else that might concern you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're shouting out the right guys. Like, I wanted to say that, like, Dest and Robinson, it's like they're two-way brilliance. It's the way they're able to press, win the ball back, and then be lethal in that moment when they get the ball back. And then, so that's what's taking us to the next level. And then, yeah, the concern is definitely the back line, which, yeah, it looked bad against Turkey. That's not necessarily like the guys that were making mistakes in that game aren't the ones that are going to be playing in the knockout stage. But I am still worried about this back line when we see teams with more quality. And then just goaltending. I thought Freeze was playing good. I would have kept rolling with him. I felt like he needed like all the reps he can get at this point. So he's played good for this team so far, but that's not an area yet where I'm like, this is locked down. Like he's gonna show up for a big game.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they put Turner out there. I guess they were that concerned with Freeze getting injured. I'm not totally sure. We did see that a lot from teams that had their qualifications locked up. They did just bench their goalies for some reason. So it was kind of keeping in trend. I will say this, and I don't want to speak this into existence, but I am a bit worried about it. I haven't loved Potch's substitution patterns so far. I like Sebastian Brohalter. I do, to an extent. He plays with immense intensity. He is unbelievable at set pieces. As far as controlling the midfield, I think he's a long ways to go in that regard. I feel like if you could just put him on for set pieces and to just run around for like 30-second intervals, he'd be the best player on the field. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, and you have to keep him out there. And eventually, he just gets over aggressive, overly sloppy. He is pure heart. Like he does have talent. You saw the goal the other day, that awesome volley. But it's not like he is a McKennie or a Tillman in that regard either. So there are just times where he looks a bit outclassed. And then if Balogun doesn't have it going, I haven't really liked anything I've seen from Pepe the last, I don't know, 5 cycles, really. I just don't know about the depth at striker. I like what I've seen from Gio Reyna. There are times I do wonder, like, can he press back the way that we've seen, like, Destin, even Pulisic at times be able to do that? Like, I just don't know if he wants to get his nose in there like some of those other guys. That concerns me as well. So just the depth really overall, we haven't seen it come into play quite yet. This team's been pretty remarkably healthy outside of a Pulisic. But there's going to come a time where a guy's not playing too well, a guy is on a yellow and is being a bit over aggressive, a guy just simply doesn't have it. And you're going to have to see some of this depth be inserted. And I just am not sure if they're going to be up for it. Theo, if we could play this 11-man rotation and maybe have Reyna and Berhalter alone and just keep those guys for the rest of the tournament and they'd be 100% healthy and nothing bad could happen to them, I'd be really confident. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So we're going to have to see when it arises. But are you concerned about the depth at all?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it when they put the depth pieces into the lineup against Turkey. It looked like a much worse team.
Yeah, and like those guys had no reps with each other, and they were playing like a little bit of a different style because they don't necessarily have the same ability. But even like Brendan Aronson, that's a guy I like a lot. He plays for Leeds, a team I follow pretty closely. Like I, for whatever reason, when he's wearing the stars and stripes, he's just not the same guy, and you just see that sometimes. Like Josh Sargent could have scored 40 goals for Norwich, but as soon as he put on the stars and stripes, he couldn't do anything. That's why he's not on the team. And then even like Trusty, who scored a goal in the game, he was a turnstile. And that's a guy who was like being linked to larger clubs at some point because he plays for Celtic, who's really good in the Scottish Premiership. So I don't really understand it. And again, it could have just been because they were thrown together and whatnot. But I just am worried that there's some of these guys. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why can't you just play like you do at your club here for us?
But yeah, I mean, Aronson in that game was just a mess. Like, I just felt like his touches were bad. He had bad feel about like when he should be passing. when to dribble, when to shoot. Like it just felt like he had no feel for someone who's about to get a lot of money from a European club.
Yeah, and I like Zendejas, by the way, and I wish we played him a little bit more. He's been tearing up Liga MX. We only saw him for like 15 minutes against Turkey. I thought that was a guy, if you could have tossed out there at different times, like just see what he has. I feel like he's been decent when he's been with the US. He hasn't played a ton for them. He doesn't have a ton of caps, but regardless, we'll see. I think overall, where I'm at, I think they can give Spain or Portugal, if it is in fact them, a run for their money. I do lean your side. I don't want to get too carried away. I think they do lose just based off really quality alone and the expectations that those teams have. They just feel it more despite us being in the US. If you're Portugal, like you're just not going to match. The US is just not going to match that intensity when they play Portugal with a game like that on the line. Same with Spain, even though Spain still has some younger stars. Just a lot of these teams, like the pressure of this could be it for some of our bigger stars. I think that could fuel them more than like, oh yeah, this is in our backyard. So I think we spent enough time on our US there. I'm excited to see how they look against Bosnia this Wednesday. I'm sure we'll have more thoughts on that going forward. We do want to talk about the general bracket here, and we have all the matchups lined up. There's some intriguing stuff here. What stands out to you the most just looking at the bracket?
Yeah, well, this might go back to what we talked about in the beginning, but I feel like there's got to be a better way to seed these 32 teams. I'm fine with the expanded field and the 32 team bracket, but kind of just like assigning everything before the games are played based on group finishes, where like some first place group winners get to play third place teams and some get to play second. It just doesn't feel totally fair. And then when you kind of expand this bracket, there's games that are going to happen in the round of 16 that are going to feel like way bigger games based on the quality of the teams. And then we're going to have games like today where it's South Africa, Canada, where it's like, I'm not sure that either of these teams deserves to advance, but one of them is going to because they're playing each other. Because of this bracket. And I guess like some of the groups are weird because that's how they do it for the host countries. Like they automatically put them into the top pot. But then if you're going to do that, I just think there's got to be some way to kind of like power rate or like reshuffle the teams once we get to this stage so that we get a more evenly distributed bracket.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that jumps out immediately. Like Canada, they're just not very good. And they're in the round of 16 basically because they're the third host nation. Like I guess Canada. Congrats. And then another one, and these teams deserved it, so it's a smidge different. But even like in Australia, Egypt, like I'm not sure that should have the right to go to the final 16 either. Egypt got second in their group, so it's a little bit different. But still, I don't know, there's just something off about that to me. Switzerland and Algeria as well, like, I agree with you. I haven't really noticed this in past iterations because the 16 is the 16. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But because there's so many formulas involved, and Group A1 has to play the third of Group D, E, like all this stuff, it's so hard to keep track of. It just lends to stuff like you mentioned, Canada and South Africa playing an absolute stinker. Canada winning at the death and basically getting a free pass to the round of 16, and by proxy giving the winner of France or Germany a right path to the quarterfinals. So I feel like that is a bit weird as well. My thing that I was looking at, and I couldn't help myself here, before the tournament, I was pretty adamant that I just did not like this England squad. I'm not a Thomas Tuchel guy. I'm a Chelsea fan. I've seen this guy's style. He can manage top talent very well as far as making sure they don't get embarrassed. But I feel like his style of play is so conducive of like trying to win 1-0 that if you don't win 1-0, you're in a lot of trouble if the other team's either A, good at counterattacking, or B, if you just get in a shootout where it's just kind of like anything can happen at that point. And we've seen that throughout England's entire run. And now if you look at their path, and I haven't really heard anyone sound the alarms on this quite yet, it's incredibly difficult because yes, they play Cape Verde initially. Sure. But then they might have to play Mexico in Estudia Azteca, which is one of the best home field advantages left in sports by a tremendous margin. Like, this might be the most feared place to play on the entire planet, and they're gonna have to go there for the round of 16. And if they can get out of that, your most likely path is having to face Brazil, who is just probably more talented than you anyway. I don't really like this path for England at all. I didn't like how they played in the group stage. I think there's a really good chance they just lose to Mexico in the round of 16. And if they could somehow escape that, then they have to play Brazil, and just don't even get me started if they have to play Argentina. Like, there's just no way they're beating these teams consecutively. And this is a team that I think a lot of people earmark to at least make the semis and make an actual run at finally making a trip back to the finals. And I just don't even think that's a possibility at this point.
No, I mean, this is a team that already feels an immense amount of pressure going into every major tournament. And then yeah, their group stage, like they looked good against Croatia, I thought, but that Ghana game has to be concerning, and it seemed like Tuchel kind of like panicked a little bit. I didn't really like the adjustments or the changes, and like Ghana got out on the counter, like arguably could have had two pens, one pen I would say inarguably they should have had. So like they were right there to lose that game to Ghana. And like when I look at what Mexico does, like the way that they're able to defend and break out, I think it's kind of they'll have a similar game plan with almost more quality. And then they're playing in a place that they've lost there once since we've been born in this stadium, and that was in I think 2013. So it's still been 13 years since they've lost there, and I even feel like this is like one of the better squads they've had, and it's been like an impenetrable fortress even with less talented teams. So yeah, I would be concerned if it's Mexico, and even if Mexico lose to Ecuador. Like that's a team that like they're not going to let two or three goals past you. So they're going to put England in a position where they'd be sweating late in the game as well, and we could see if that pressure would be enough to crumble them.
Yeah, and Panama gave them like a really good first 50, 60 minutes, and they didn't even score a goal out here. So I don't know. I look at this team, Reece James, we don't know his status, and they don't have another right back on the roster because Tuchel like hates Trent for some reason more than anybody else. And then you look at the attacking force. There's just, Theo, there's times I look at this England squad and I'm like, how is Arsenal as good as they are? Like, is Arteta this brilliant? Because I watched Saka just do cardio for like 45 minutes, and then we go into break and we're like, who needs a big second half, Saka? I'm like, how many times can we do this? Like, how many times can we do this? And they're just trying to mix and match guys on the outside, like Anthony Gordon. I haven't really seen much of him in this tournament so far. Rashford, it looked like would be the guy. And Rashford's one of those guys, when you doubt him, he looks really good. But when you have any expectations for him, you're like, oh, that's Marcus Rashford, the guy who's been bouncing around for the last 4 years, just trying to find a home. And that's kind of the story of England's attack. And then you have Harry Kane in the middle, who's still pretty brilliant. There's times where even he's a little bit shaky. He shanked one the other day that I think hit a cloud. It was so far over the net. But still, he's kind of the calming force in the middle, the guy I trust the most. It's just crazy to me, like, you look at this team, you're like, he had such a terrible year, but surely Cole Palmer could have been useful on this team. Surely Trent could have been useful on this team. They just need guys with, like, any sort of creation ability, and they just don't have it, and to me, that is so jarring because we're gonna talk about some teams that have been disappointing in a second, but England's disappointment is in a different level for me because those other teams I could kind of see the warning signs for them and be like, okay, I understand why they're disappointing or not looking as good as I thought they were. England, this is almost self-induced. Like, this isn't because they don't have the players with their own nationality. They do. This isn't like they don't have a coach who's coached PSG, Chelsea, now the English national team. Like, they have him as well. They have everything they possibly could need, and they still can't figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's because they're still going to be brilliant from set pieces. I mean, you have Declan Rice, one of the best free kick corner takers in the world right now, and then you like Kane's such a good finisher. But yeah, just in open play, it's just I don't think they've generated a lot in open play, a lot of chances. It's just kind of a lot of like Jude Bellingham, can you create, or like Rashford creating, which when Rashford's creating for himself. That's what he does. So it's just, yeah, they just haven't done a lot in open play given the level of talent on this squad.
Same with Madueke, the other Arsenal guy I forgot to bring up a minute ago when I made that comment. Like, if you just saw like highlight reels of him, you'd be like, "Oh, that guy's got game." But when you actually watch games of him, I'm like, "I can't believe this guy has played for Chelsea and Arsenal now." Like, I just don't see it. He plays beautifully, and he can make people miss, and I understand that his pace and his ability to take defenders one-on-one, like, that's why he's in the squad, and that's why managers kind of lust over him. I just don't think it actually is conducive of winning, but he did just play at Arsenal, so, like, I it's not a great argument, but, like, you have to see that too, right?
But yeah, I mean, he's just not been good at all in these games.
And Tuchel's still out there defending his choices, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like we made fun of Jude a lot in the last Euros about how Jude was like the most feast or famine guy in the entire tournament. Where there'd be a second Jude looked like a historic center attacking mid. There'd be other times where you just didn't know he was on the field for 80 minutes, and that was kind of the joke where like Cole Palmer would come in and he just changed the game in 2 seconds. Jude's improved tremendously since then. I feel like Jude is easily one or two on this team, him or Kane, whoever you're choosing there. But like, yeah, besides that, like, are we just overrating some of these guys domestically? Like, I'll give Declan Rice credit as well, but even like this back line, like the Rich James was playing well when he's in, but now that he's not, it's like, okay, like we needed John Stones to play some games. Like, really? John Stones who like couldn't get off the bench for Man City? Like he's being thrown in there. Like Trevor Chalobah is now called up and might have to play some games here. Like what is happening here with this English?
Yeah, I mean, then there's got like Elliot Anderson and Anthony Gordon who just went for enormous amounts of money. Like Man City and Barca, like they cannot feel great like watching these games and watching how these guys are performing against like the likes of Ghana and Panama and Croatia after they brought out the Brinks truck for those guys.
And I like Morgan Rogers, but like $82 million is his estimated value. Like, really? I haven't really seen that. Like, I've seen him actually go backwards more than I've seen him go forwards in this entire tournament. So it just feels like everyone for them just hasn't been able to live up to their standards besides Jude, Kane, and to an extent, Rice. I do want to talk about some of the teams that haven't been playing up to standard. Spain, Portugal, I think some would say Germany as well. They're able to kind of stack up some great performances against some of the lesser teams, but in the higher games haven't looked great either. Brazil drew Morocco in the opener. They've looked to be buzzing ever since then. Which of these like powerhouse teams worries you the most?
I don't feel great about Germany's back line. I would say at this point, and like Neuer at 40, I don't is no longer good enough to overcompensate for a bad back line. It was something even when they were beating Curacao like 7-1, I was like, I just don't feel like this team's very sound defensively. And then they proceeded, Ivory Coast had chances against them. I mean, they got up early, and then like Germany was able to bounce back, but that was a good game. And then like Ecuador, who couldn't score in 180 minutes against Ivory Coast, and Curacao was then able to put two behind Germany. So I don't think Germany's gonna be making a deep run here.
For me, it's Spain, who has been the most confusing team so far. So they opened with Cape Verde, they drew. We talked about their game against Uruguay earlier, where they scored on a ball that just simply should have never went in. And then their only win is a throttling of Saudi Arabia, who's one of those teams who you're like, yeah, we probably could have went without them in this tournament. It's kind of hard to like pick out who isn't showing up for them. Like their back line is fine, I guess. Their attack has the names you want. It's just like none of these guys are playing very well. Like Lamine Yamal, for as brilliant as he's been, a 6.9 rating against Uruguay, like that just can't happen. And then you have guys like Rodri in the middle who's supposed to dominate the midfield. I haven't really seen a ton out of him so far in this tournament either. Like Pedri's been fine, I guess. And along the back line, like I've actually liked what I've seen from Laurent and Cucurella. That was an area where I'm like, maybe they can be beat on the wings. Cucurella, another one of those like feast or famine type players. It's been the attack though, which just like isn't supposed to be something that is an issue for this Spanish team. Like Fabian Ruiz just came in. I haven't seen much out of him. Ferran Torres skied one. Nico Williams was supposed to be kind of the yin to Yamal's yang. He just hasn't really been awesome in a Spanish shirt either. Like, if these guys can't score goals, I'm not really sure what they're good at. Because, like, yeah, they still have Rodri and Pedri in the middle, and they'll be able to dictate that. But, like, this team is built to score. So if they can't score, like, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get past some of these other teams.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking too, because it's not even that the not scoring, it's kind of like a lack of good chances. Like, I know everyone
Yeah.
freaked out and like followed the Cape Verde goalie after he made a bunch of saves, but none of those saves were like particularly difficult. Like, they just, and in the Uruguay game too, like they're not generating a lot of high level chances. It's not just that like the results aren't there. It's like the process isn't there either.
They had a 2-to-1 possession ratio advantage. They had only one more shot than Uruguay. And I still attest that Uruguay probably had the best chance in the game. That Spanish goal just wasn't impressive at all. So I'm not seeing it with them right now. That was a team like I thought could make a finals run. I just like everything that they have to offer. And I thought their depth was just disgusting. Like Nico Williams off the bench. Like, what are we talking about here? And they've just basically gone ghost. Now, on the flip side of that coin, we have to talk about Cinderellas here. That's one of our favorite parts of these tournaments. Obviously, we're college basketball guys. We love a good underdog. It feels like this format is designed for one of these teams to just sneak through at least to a round of 16, maybe even shock the world and get to a corners. Is there anyone that you have an eye on here that can make that run?
Yeah, I really like this Ivory Coast Norway game. To me almost has like that 5-12 feel in college basketball, where you're like there's a kind of a difference in how we feel about these teams, but like they're both awesome teams. They just are like from different competitions, but it's like almost like both these teams are good enough to win multiple games. I mean, they do have Brazil up at the top, who has honestly looked better than I was expecting. But I really like what both Ivory Coast and Norway can offer. Norway from like an attacking perspective, and then like Ivory Coast, the way that they can defend and break out on counters.
I hinted at it earlier. I do think if the U.S. can get past either Netherlands or Senegal here, or Belgium, excuse me, Belgium or Senegal here, that they do have a legit chance against either presumably Spain or Portugal. Like, I think based off the way those teams are playing, like the U.S.'s counter, especially against Portugal, like with Pulisic and Dest and Balogun, you saw it yesterday where James Rodriguez was outrunning people on Portugal. Like, if you put Pulisic and Dest out there, they're going to have a time, let me tell you. And even with Spain, like, Cucurella, as good as he is, he just gets overzealous at times. Like, you can leave him in the dust. You can make him pay if he cheats a little bit going forward, which he has a tendency to do. And he has been doing more often because Spain can't get anything going forward. So I do think the U.S. run is on the table. Will they do it? I'm not too sure, but I do think it's possible. I did want to bring up Morocco because they're not a Cinderella in the sense like they were that in 22. They can't be that again here in 26. But I feel like no one's really talking about them anymore. I felt like they were almost being bastardized before the tournament, where they were a popular pick for like one of those countries to fizzle out early. They were a popular pick to like maybe not even perform well in their group. I thought they played Brazil masterfully. They get a tough draw against Netherlands. Then there's a free space where you get Canada. Sorry to our neighbors up north. And then you play the winner of Germany and France, which is going to be a tough game. I'm not big on Germany either, but I feel like that's going to at least make France work for it there. So you're getting kind of a path to the semis where, like, okay, you're getting France after playing Germany, not before. And then you're playing Canada before that. So to you, it's almost like an easier tune-up game. I think that could be humongous and pay massive dividends for Morocco, who, I mean, they showed the blueprint how to play a team like France. They did it against Brazil, where like Hakimi was playing out of his mind, and they clearly had a formula where like we're not breaking our shape no matter what, and we're just going to take our chances on the counter. They had a few great opportunities they weren't able to convert, but I mean, look, if they are able to draw France and go 0-0 and go into PKs, like I said it earlier, anything can happen. I think that's kind of their strategy. Win a 1-0, win 0-0 in PKs, but they can do it. We've seen them do it time and time again, and I feel like this draw helps them with their path.
Yeah, I thought Morocco coming into the tournament was like the most undervalued team according to the betting markets. I mean they've shown that they can compete in these tournaments. Like they were made the semifinals of the last World Cup. They went and they won AFCON very controversially. But they were just like they were a long
Air
shot.
quotes, one AFCON. We got to be safe here.
Yeah, they were in the final of AFCON. So they went deep there. But yeah, I loved all the like there was very plus odds to win the group, which they didn't end up doing, but it just seemed like the betting markets thought there was a huge gap between Morocco and Brazil. Like I think Morocco was like plus 470 on the money line in that game. Those looked like two pretty evenly matched teams to me. I would say Morocco looked like the better team for the first like 35 to 40 minutes. Brazil was definitely a better team in the second half of the game, but I thought Morocco showed themselves very well there. And then yeah, this Netherlands Morocco game is kind of the round of 16 game because you would assume whoever wins that game advances to the quarterfinal. So yeah, I had a lot of Morocco in my portfolio. I have a future on them to make the quarters, have a future on them to be the top finishing African nation in this tournament. So I hope you're right, but I see the same stuff as you do.
Yeah, Mizraoui, one of your Man U guys, like he doesn't look awesome for United all the time,
Mm-mm.
but for some reason when he puts on this Moroccan kit, like he was giving Vinny the works in that Brazil game. Like, could he do the same against this ridiculous France attack where it's like Doué and Dembele and Mbappe and Barcola, and it's so ridiculous how many guys they have. Can they actually withstand that? I'm not sure. But if they can, like at least for the first 120 minutes, like anything can happen. And I feel like that's kind of Morocco's MO. Like, we're just going to play you absolutely to the nails and don't underestimate us. And that's kind of the brilliance that we've seen from them across the last two tournaments. Now, Spain did come in as the favorite, which feels like an eon ago at this point. But who do you think is the favorite right now? We've seen a lot of teams play down to competition. Some other teams have looked great. France has looked awesome. I mean, Brazil, for the most part, those latter two games, has looked really good. Argentina has looked like a complete buzzsaw early on. And then, you could just throw out the group stage if you want. Portugal and Spain are still in this thing. Like, who do you think is the favorite right now?
Yeah, I think the betting markets have this right. I think it has to be France. I mean, this attack is just ridiculous with Olise, the way he's been able to just be so unselfish, setting the table for Mbappe and Dembele. And honestly, like I think both of them deserve a little bit of credit for the way they've been able to be unselfish. I know that was something people were very worried about. Like, there's a Ballon d'Or on the line. Like Dembele kind of has taken Mbappe's team. Like, are they going to be able to coexist? And I don't think either of them has played super selfishly. I think they're like Mbappe was chasing a hat trick kind of shamelessly in one of the games, but the game was already put away. Yeah. So yeah, I would take them. I think, a little worrisome. They gave up a lot of chances to that backup Norway squad, and even Senegal had chances. But I mean, I think you can be fine giving up chances if you're France, because the way they're playing, I think you can kind of just write them in for 3 goals or more anytime they step onto the pitch.
Yeah, I was really worried about that because the last two Euros and World Cup, I felt like France has had an identity crisis of sorts with Mbappe. And in 2022, it just felt like there was a week where like Mbappe went God mode and he was able to kind of will them to the final. But I just didn't think they could play like that again, like so much through Mbappe. I thought this field was too good. The playbook was too out there. And it's not like he's coming off an awesome season at Real Madrid either. So I was just like trying to see like, okay, if they can coexist, they're a favorite. But I just don't see how they could. They just simply have too many guys. And as you said, so far, so good. And to me, the most impressive has been Dembele, who he had the brace against Norway. But before that, I just thought he was such a good table setter as well on the wing, like giving up chances for Mbappe, giving up chances for Due. Like, he was doing everything he was supposed to be doing, and he was a guy I'm like, he's used to everything being catered to him at PSG. Like, he has Vitinha, he has Neves behind him, like, they're funneling the ball to him. He is the guy. Like, can he actually work long term with an Mbappe? We haven't seen it yet, but so far, I'm like, these guys look like they're enjoying playing with each other and they're understanding, like, my life is easier because you're out there as well. And then Elise, as you talked about, like, coming off an unbelievable season at Bayern Munich, like, he's only been the best attacking mid in this entire tournament so far. When you pair all those guys together, it's like, how do you even stop this? Like, yes, the back line is super shaky. You mentioned it. Like, I could not believe the amount of chances Norway was getting. I'm like, I don't even know who half these guys are. Like, the guys just playing around the world, 2 feet in front of the net, skying it against France. Like, shouldn't that be worrisome? But it's really not, because I just feel like France is one of those teams, like, if Norway were to put one in, France would just say, okay, we're just going to go score a fourth and fifth. Like, they're just kind of on autopilot, and they can kind of turn it on and off as so they please.
Yeah, that's 100% how it feels. Yeah. Like they screwed around like with Senegal for a little bit, but it actually does feel like they have the kill switch. Like when Norway got the goal, they kind of like just turned right around. They possessed the ball. They got a bunch of chances. So I do think they are going to concede, but I think they have that kill switch that they can kind of flip and just go back to dominating the game offensively.
Before we pick our final four in champions, I did want to talk about this Ronaldo situation that has been so prominent throughout this World Cup. So he starts the World Cup with that stinker against DR Congo. Then he scores the brace against Uzbekistan. Everyone's saying he's back, including himself, to the camera closest to him when he scored the second. And then yesterday they played Colombia, and it was a really good high intensity game. And to me, it felt like he cost them the game by just being unable to go forward at multiple junctures in the game. Like, I thought both teams were getting a lot of chances. I thought for the most part, until the very end, Portugal was getting the much more high quality of the chances, despite Colombia playing better on the break and I think being better on the ball for longer stretches. But it's coming to the point where I just can't help myself think, like, I don't think Portugal would be in this position if Gonzalo Ramos, who, by the way, just got paid like $70 million to go to AC Milan, if he was starting up front for them. Like, I just feel like they would have won at least one of those games against Congo or Colombia, would have topped their group, and would have had a much easier path to the semifinals where they'd eventually run into Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, the strength of their team is supposed to be this brilliant midfield. I mean, Bruno Fernandes just won Player of the Year in the best league in the world, and it just kind of feels like they're all just a little hamstrung of just like kind of trying to figure out ways to play the ball to Ronaldo, their striker. So we just haven't really been able to see much individual brilliance and creation from that midfield that's supposed to be the best part of this team.
Yeah, not to mention the other two midfielders in Vitinha and Joao Neves. That is the engine of the best team in the world that just won back-to-back Champions League at PSG. And part of me thinks, like, is that too many guys together that are like, is that an ego thing? And I'm like, no, it can't be, because Vitinha and Neves play at PSG with all these other guys that are unbelievable that we just talked about that are on France. So it's probably not that. And I just feel like, first of all, the system is a bit nauseating at times, because I feel like it is designed around a striker that this team does not have or does not play because Ronaldo is in. And the other thing is, I think they've just been a little bit too passive. Like, Vitinha's map yesterday was basically all sideways and backwards, and it got ridiculed all over. I've seen the fallout from today, and that kind of matches the eye test. Vitinha just feels like he's scared of taking chances, and I think the only way this team, if they're going to keep playing Ronaldo, their only path is you have to try to make these passes forward. You have to try to hit Joao Felix or Rafael Leao or Pedro Neto in stride, and they're going to have to make something happen. maybe pass back to a Bruno Fernandes. Like that's the only way because you're not getting anything for the middle. These crosses and hoping Ronaldo is gonna catch it at his feet and score off a volley or head it in and jump over someone, those days are just gone.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they weren't the better team in that Colombia game. I
No,
just
they
they
weren't.
did not, and that's the team. Colombia is very good, but if you Portugal should be able to walk on the field and like come away, regardless of like the score being weird. They should look like the better team when those two teams play each other.
Yeah, and I thought till extra time, like you saw the individual talent of the teams at different junctures where I was like, okay, this is still Portugal. Like they still have better players, but it was very apparent that Colombia was the better team. They're the better sum of their parts. That wasn't even close. And to me, if I'm a Portugal fan, which I am, that is very concerning. And I don't know what that's going to look like going forward. Which leads me to this, which is going to be interesting for me to talk about our semifinals and champions. And I'm going to start this off because I do have Portugal still making the semis. They were my champions before this. I have them losing a little bit earlier now to France. I still think this Portuguese team, from like a pure player to player standpoint, is probably the third or fourth best in the tournament. And I think for that reason, eventually it's going to work. And I do think at some point, this Ronaldo thing, if it gets loud enough, Gonzalo Ramos is just going to start, and then this team is just immediately better. Like, I do not think they're going to sabotage a legit chance at making a run at this World Cup for the feelings of Cristiano Ronaldo. I just do not think that's going to happen. And once that switch happens, I think you're going to see a different Portugal because I think from the body language, when you watch this team, it's not great. And I hate to be that guy, but I do think a lot of it has to do with Cristiano and basically being coddled and basically having this team revolve around him. I think if he's out of there, it's more of a free flowing unit. And these players are just amazing. Like, I think if this team revolves around Bruno, like Man U did, how he won the player of the season in the Prem, you're just going to see a different team. So I still have hope for that happening. On the other side, I have Brazil over Argentina. I don't think Argentina's like that good. I think Messi has been playing out of his mind. He's just been bananas so far. But I think once they play an actual like top shelf team, especially another Southern American team, they might just falter a little bit. That's again the best rivalry in the sport. I do think Brazil can overcome that to reach the finals, where I do have France over Brazil. Mbappe winning his second, being immediately etched on a very short list of winning two World Cups in your prime, arguably the best player on both teams as well. I just think this France team's a buzzsaw. Like I don't know how you beat them. I guess you just pray these guys miss enough shots. Of their 20 shots, you just hope only two go in and they allow so many chances on the other end. You win like a 3-2 barn burner. I like think that's the only path because as of right now, France is just playing at a different level.
Yeah, on the left side, I have France, and then I'm gonna take Spain out of the bottom, even though we weren't super high on them. I see the vision there. They lost, I think, the Nations League final to Portugal. Mendes really got the better of Yamal in that matchup, but I'm still taking Spain to get to the semifinal to beat Portugal this time around. And if you do look at the Spain France matchup, I think there's matchups you can find on the pitch where you would like Spain, like particularly in the midfield. But just what team am I more confident in getting to a final based on what I've seen? I'm taking France 100% there. I just like it would be it would take something like otherworldly for France to not even like be in the semifinal, where I feel like Spain even getting there I think might be closer to a coin flip at this point. So I have France in the final on there, and then I have the same matchup on the right side of the bracket with Brazil and Argentina. I mean, Argentina, there's no way that they're not in the semifinal. I feel like with the way that this bracket shakes out for them, where they're playing Cape Verde and then Australia or Egypt, and then they're getting like the best of this, like Colombia, Ghana, Switzerland, Algeria quadrant down there. Like this is not helping the FIFA sets it all up on the table, sets the table for messy narratives.
I do want to say, I think Colombia is being taken not as seriously as they should be down there. But I do think the problem presents itself that you saw yesterday in Miami, where Colombia is an awesome team, but their top shelf guys just might not be good enough. Like Luis Diaz is brilliant. The other Luis Suarez is brilliant, but I don't know if I trust them the way I trust some of these other like superstar names. And then obviously James Rodriguez, he played out of his mind yesterday, but I just don't think you're going to get that throughout this entire tournament. I believe he's like 35 now. There's a reason he plays for Minnesota United. He's just not that guy all the time, and I just can't see that coming to fruition if they were able to make it all the way to play Argentina. Like I just don't think he can have a similar performance again.
Yeah, yeah, Colombia, like, impressed me. I thought they could win the group. They did win the group, but it's still like, it wasn't they didn't coast through the group in the way that, like, a France did. Like, even in this group with, like, Uzbekistan and DR Congo, like, even that Uzbekistan game, like, they were pressing for a while, but I felt like it took them a while to score, and they really didn't take
Yeah.
control of the game until later, and it was the same way against Congo. So I think, yeah, Colombia, I have them getting to the quarterfinal because of the path, and I think they're a quality side, but I think they would lose to Argentina in a quarterfinal matchup.
And then who do you have winning the whole thing?
Yeah, I would take France over Argentina right now, which is a matchup we've seen a ton of recently. But I think this time around, I think France is better just with the player. I think Olise as the table setter is kind of like the perfect piece to plug in. And like I think that's the difference maker from last time.
Yeah, I think there'd be a real appetite for it as well. Like the Mbappe Messi rematch, one of those guys would get their second there. If that were to happen, I think that would be a humongous deal. This isn't on our outline here, but I do want to ask you, like, Golden Boot. I feel like that's been adjacent to who's going to win this thing. The other talk of the town. Who do you have for that?
Yeah, it's because everyone showed up and everyone was scoring goals. I mean, we had that day where like Messi, Holland, and Mbappe all scored two, and then they all did it again. And Ronaldo's been scoring. I think, yeah, just because I think he's gonna play the most games. I guess I think Messi and Mbappe are gonna play the most games, but I just think as we get to the knockouts, I think Argentina is gonna lean into playing lower scoring games. So I'm just gonna take Mbappe because, like I said, I think France is gonna win all these games, and I think France is gonna score 3 or 4 goals in a bunch of these games.
Yeah, unfortunately, so I was trying to be a little bit different with my Golden Boot pick because I was going through history and it kind of flip flops between like the most obvious guy you can imagine and then someone on like a team that finishes in the semis who's just really good. And that's kind of the pattern that I saw. So I was like, who can be that, guy no one's really talking about in this way, but is also really good. And I landed on Rafinha because I'm like, Brazil's going to score a ton of goals and they have this amazing attack. Unfortunately for me, Rafinha got hurt immediately, and it's been Vinny Jr. instead scoring all the goals. So I'm going to take the logic I applied the first time, and I'm going to use my mulligan here and just pick Vinny Jr. because I do think Brazil is going to play a lot of games that they're going to be able to score a lot of goals in. Like they play Japan right now, then they're going to play Cote d'Ivoire or Norway. I think there's just going to be a million goals in both those games. And then they might end up playing like a Mexico team outside of Mexico where I like just don't fear them anymore. Like I think all their powers go away and I'm not really super impressed with Mexico's backline either. And so they can score a billion goals there as well. So I do have Vinny Jr. for my golden boot. Any final thoughts as we wrap up this World Cup knockout round preview?
No, I don't think so. It's just yeah, I hope all the star players have really shown up, which triggered that with that golden boot conversation. Worth bringing up that I feel like that doesn't happen in sports very often, where you get to a stage like this and like almost everybody shows up. So
I think that's a great point because I was thinking about this and I understand it's very hard not to in this format, but every team that we wanted to see, we're going to keep seeing, which I think is really impressive as well. And you just don't get to see that very often. Like we still get these teams in our lives for an extra at least week. Like, yes, unfortunately, Scotland, they had an unbelievable run in the hearts of all of us. but, like, they weren't even really supposed to be in the zeitgeist to begin with. I'm talking, like, the big boys, like, all of them have been able to stick around except Uruguay, who I guess, like, they're just being disbanded now. Like, I think they might have to row the way home because I don't know if any airline's gonna take them at this point. And South Korea, who I had high hopes for
Yeah, I thought they
because
were gonna win the group.
I thought they were gonna win the group, and I really like that Asian style of football where it is like pass, pass, pass. It's like kinda tiki-taka in a way, but almost turned up to like 10 where they're just going at a lightning speed. And so I liked them in Japan, but Japan's without like 4 of their best players. So I'm like, okay, if I like this style, I'm gonna just lean on South Korea here, who has all their guys. They have Son, they have all the usual suspects. And their group kind of stinks because they're playing Czechia and South Africa, and the Mexico game doesn't matter. Well, what did they do, Theo? In the Mexico game, they lost because basically their keeper and center back had a miscommunication, and the keeper did a somersault over the center back and dropped the ball, and Mexico scored that way. And then against South Africa, like, did they think they were advancing already? Like, it was such an unbelievable performance. I still haven't been able to wrap my mind around it because it was a 1-0 game, and for the last at least, like, 40 minutes, it didn't feel like South Korea had the urgency of a team that was probably being eliminated if they couldn't find an extra point, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, if you were able to just win that game or just draw the game, you probably have a free ticket to the round of 16 because I think you're better than Canada. I think everyone would pick South Korea over Canada in that way. Instead, South Africa advances. They get this weird matchup with Canada, and we just saw Canada was able to win, and it was disgusting. But South Korea, I mean, they're blurring the manager's face on like public access TV. I'd be sick too. They had a free round of 16 berth and they just botched it in the most ridiculous way possible.
No, it was baffling. Like they played like they were already through. It really made no sense. What was down to like the lineup they started to how they played. I mean, like South Africa, one of the crazier ways I've ever seen a team get through. I mean, they get that point against Czechia where like if they don't get a pen, like they were literally never scoring a goal, and then they play this like South Korea team that, like you said, like has this identity of being fun and attacking, and then they kind of just decided that they didn't want to attack that day, and South Africa wins 1-0, and now they're
They
in
just
the
dominated the ball and like weren't doing anything. And the announcers were like, "What are we watching?" The announcers were stunned. They genuinely could not believe it either. Like we couldn't at home. We were texting about it, and we were like, do they know what's happening? Like, do they understand what's before them? And I mean, credit to South Africa. I believe like 8 or 9 African nations were able to advance in this tournament, which we didn't bring up, but
yeah,
that's my
9 out of the
final
10.
point. Yeah, that's my final point here. 9 out of the 10, just Tunisia, who like probably should have been here
They were
anyway. They've had
4,
like 7 coaches, just a total disaster of the serious
which
teams.
I didn't even
9
realize that was
advance.
a thing, that you could sack your manager in the middle of the World Cup, but
I don't
Tunisia
think it's
taught me that.
happened since '98, and I didn't know you could qualify with the group they qualified from. It was like Sao Tome and Principe. It was like it was a disaster group that I don't even know how it was configured. Where there's just better African teams at home right now. They're 60th in the FIFA rankings, which I think is pretty much based off that win against South Korea and just making the round of 32 here. I believe they were way lower than that. We saw them against Mexico. They were freaking horrible. They couldn't do anything, and somehow, some way, they were able to advance. But I mean, it's been the tournament for Africa, so I did want to shout that out before we ended here. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I think we covered everything we possibly could have here. I'm sure we'll be back as things transpire the next few weeks. As for us, NBA free agency right around the corner. So look out for an NBA free agency review and all that fun stuff surrounding that. And then Love Island, Theo, I don't know if you know this, breaking news. You're number one now on Gurus for our YouTube shorts. You broke the record
Let's go.
today. I think it's up to 2.7 thousand views, and our most recent Love Island video did really, really well. So I'm sure we'll do another check-in for that. For Theo, for Mike doing whatever the hell he's doing right now, I'm X. We are the Gurus, and we will see you next time.